Hello, welcome to Grid Live Wrap Up. IMSA Rolex 24 hours in the book. Drama between teammates and other teams in the lower classes. Plus, Sebastien Ogier, a historic rally win at Rallye Monte Carlo. Kobe Lavitz from Grid Tonight joins me. Big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, Matthew for investing into Grid Network. Plus, everyone that has done Buy Me a Coffee YouTube Super Chat. This will be updated as Jason M. and Amber J. both bought us coffee during the pre-race show yesterday. And a big thank you to everyone that turned into the pre-race show yesterday for the Rolex 24 hours. Encourage everyone, subscribe, hit the bell icon because we got more programs later this week. Kobe, let's get started. The 63rd running of the Rolex 24 hours at Daytona. Plenty of thrills and drama with familiar faces taking the checker flag at the end of the 24-hour race. And of course, for the second consecutive year, Porsche Penske number 7 claimed the overall win, but he really had to earn it in the final minutes with just over 20 minutes remaining in the race. Felipe Nasr got in the draft of teammate Matt Campbell on the number 6 Porsche and coming off of the NASCAR turn number 2 of the Super Speedway. He made a bold move, going below the yellow line to complete this pass prior to the bus stop chicane, the Le Mans corner. As we all know, there is no yellow line rule in this race, Kobe. A lot of great action between those two. Last year, of course, Campbell was part of the driver lineup that won the race alongside Nasr. But this year, Nick Tandy and Lawrence Vander earned their first Rolex watches in the number 17. And Nasr, I have to ask you, how exciting was that battle with him and Campbell for the overall win coming down the stretch? And do you tip your hat to Roger Penske, who was there at the track, and he just let the two drivers race each other hard but clean?
Yeah, definitely. Like they say, Penske perfect, right? Perfectly executed there at the end. I thought the number 6 and number 7 Porsches did a great job racing hard but clean. When NBC was interviewing Roger Penske, he hinted, that they thought about, telling them to race nicely and all of that. But you don't need to tell professionals like a Matt Campbell or Felipe Nasr. You don't have to tell them, what to do. They know the situation. And even the NBC announcers in the booth, they were saying, like, you one wrong move, and this could be your career. And when you drive for someone like Roger Penske, there's enormous pressure on you. And if you ended up taking out both of you, and then you allowed Tom Blomqvist, who was really coming on late in that Meyershank Acura, if you make contact and let Blomqvist get by and win the race, that would be some real tough conversations at the end of the race. But I thought both drivers handled that as perfectly as you could. Some great racing there by Campbell and Nasr. And like you're saying, Joe, in IMSA, there's no rule going below the double yellow line. So Campbell was on the defensive, but Nasr, he put the left side tire below that W line and made that aggressive pass in on the Le Mans chicane and never looked back from there. Thought it was such an awesome battle. Great job by Porsche Penske Motorsport for getting their second consecutive overall victory in the Rolex 24. It was an awesome show in the GTP class.
A very awesome show indeed. The two of them really displaying the challenges of racing, sports car racing with the different classes, maneuvering through the slower GTD Pro classes. I really was impressed with how Felipe Nasr was using the draft coming out of turn 4 to try to get as much speed on his teammate as possible, just using the draft from the slower cars, getting closer and closer into the infield section, and then as they exited turn 2, made that aggressive pass with that Rolex 24-hour win. Team Penske, one of his drivers, achieved a remarkable accomplishment. Nick Tandy completed the Grand Slam for 24-hour races, becoming the first driver to win the Rolex 24 hours at Daytona, the 24 hours of Le Mans, the 24 hours of Nürburgring, and the 24 hours of Spa, all of them the overall winner. In the last 2 years, Penske has had back-to-back wins in the Rolex 24, an IMSA GTP Championship, a WEC Hypercar Championship, 2 Indianapolis 500 winners, and back-to-back NASCAR Cup Series championships. These stats courtesy of Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic. How historic is this for Tandy? And what do you think of this incredible run that Team Penske has been on in the last few years?
Yeah, start with Nick Tandy here. Think about it, Joe. How long have these races been around? The Rolex 24, the 24 hours of Le Mans, the 24 hours of Nürburgring. the 24 hours at the Spa-Francorchamps. Just think how long those races have been around. They've been around for many decades. And Nick Tandy, all these years later, he's the first to win all 4 of those things overall. That is a remarkable accomplishment for Tandy. He's obviously been a very successful sports car driver for many years. Been a Porsche factory driver for a very long time, and to be the first driver to accomplish something is always really special. It just goes to show, how much trust Porsche has put in him over the years, and see in his talent and abilities. Yeah, so Nick Tandy is standing on top of the 24-hour race mountain right now, and it's gonna be interesting to see who's gonna get this next, because it's just so incredible to see him be able to win all of these 24-hour races overall. And like we've been saying, these races are so hard to win. Some people are lucky, and win on their first try, like Connor Zilisch did last year in LMP2, and other drivers, it may take you 20 years of trying, 20 years of frustration before you finally get your first Rolex watch. It's definitely taken quite a bit for Tandy to accomplish all 4 of these 24-hour races, but he got it done, and kudos to him for, been with strong teams, good co-drivers, and everything worked out perfectly. And Team Penske, wow, it's crazy what they've been able to do in the last 2 years. You mentioned it, Joe. 2 consecutive Rolex 24s. They swept the prototype championships in IMSA and the World Endurance Championship in GTP and Hypercar. Joseph Newgarden back-to-back Indianapolis 500s, and Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano in the Cup Series getting championships. It makes you wonder what's left for Roger Penske to do, given the run that Penske is on in the last couple of years. I think the next thing for Roger Penske is going to do is probably going to happen in June, and he's going to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans overall. That would be the next thing for him to do. And even before these last couple of years, Team Penske has, been one of the ultimate dynasties in motorsports, and they're just further adding to the dynasty. But these last 2 years seem like Team Penske is on a different level. Once Roger Penske, gets an overall victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, I think you can safely say that he's accomplished pretty much everything that there is to win in motorsports, besides Formula One. And even if Team Penske went to Formula One, I have a feeling that they would probably be up there at some point with the Mercedes, McLarens, Ferraris, and Red Bulls of the world. It's just so amazing to see the organization that Roger Penske has built, and they run on that Penske perfect mantra, and they've been perfect for the last 2 years. It's just incredible to watch.
Penske perfect, and last few years been super successful. And even you look back, they have wins at Daytona 500. Not a little bit recently, but Austin Cindric, of course, Newman. They got the success all over the place, and you just keep adding on. Just seems like it's more definitely the drivers and trying to get the most out of those drivers. Of course, one driver I have to think about when it comes to this race and Penske, Nick Tandy, what he did today, wrapping that up, it just almost seems like if you were going to make that accomplishment of getting the Grand Slam, doing it with Team Penske, because Team Penske, that's a team where they're going to say that accomplishment of Nick Tandy, it happened with our team. And that means a lot for Roger. Overall, just amazing what this team's capable of. And just to think, last year was a difficult year with all the issues in IndyCar, but he still, Indy 500 wins, championship contender with Will Power, Scott McLaughlin, winning contender. Watch out, this team, Cross Motorsports, one of the global motorsports teams out there that you got to watch. One of the global teams you got to watch too. Well, more manufacturers, BMW, Andres Van Doorn. I have to say, Kobe, he was one of the quickest drivers throughout this weekend. He put that number 24 BMW M Team Rahal Letterman Lanigan hybrid V8 on pole for the Rolex 24. Dominated the first stint, got off to a huge lead, and came to an end when he made a mistake entering the pit road by misjudging his speed, entering his pit box, and tagged the wall with the left side. Then, with under 2 hours to go, Van Doorn passed Nasr for the overall lead and nearly lost it entering the infield section. A great battle between those two. Unfortunately, things got worse. Really got out of hand when Van Doorn made contact with a GTD car in traffic. The damage, we saw the tire rubbing. Before we saw that front fender just vibrating. It was pretty much ruined the rest of the race for that number 24 BMW because it started bouncing up and down so badly. Missed a chicane, had to come in for the pits, but still the BMW, fourth overall and seventh overall for the number 25 BMW. So considering what Vanthor did he get overly aggressive in this situation? Or do you think it was just that first year with everything and the idea that our car is so much better? Because despite not getting that podium with either car, should BMW be more optimistic about the rest of the season after a strong showing at Daytona?
Yeah, it was quite an interesting race for Dries Van Thor, wasn't it? It was getting the pole. That was an impressive lap he laid down, and then early on in the race, he was literally just pulling away from everybody. His lead, he was so massive. At one point, he was leading by over 20 seconds. Which is really crazy. During the early portions of the race. And then I had that mistake. It was like, oh man, it looked like Dries Van Thorn, that number 24 BMW team, never going to run away with this in the early stages. And then the mistake on pit road, he said that he basically just misjudged where he should have entered. So that was a mistake on his part. And thankfully, the left side of the car just kissed the wall, and it wasn't like heavy damage that really impacted the performance of the car or anything like that. And then in towards the end, up there trying to battle for the win, I think he did get a little bit too aggressive, and end up hurting the car when he hit that GT car. I'm sure he's probably played that move in his head multiple times by now, and will continue probably for the next day or so. If he had a chance to do it over, he probably would have been less aggressive instead of hitting that car. And if he hadn't hit that GT car, there's no telling what could have happened. We won't ever know if he would have been able to get up there and contend with the Porsches. In my opinion, probably not, given how the Porsches, just got faster and faster. They're at the end, but I'm sure Dries is probably going to be feeling very disappointed at the end of the day, because he was up there, and unfortunately, just got too aggressive there, a little greedy, and end up hitting his car. Was crazy watching the car, go down the straight on the back stretch, and it was just bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. Reminds you of the porpoising, we saw with the Mercedes F1 car. It was just really crazy to see the car bouncing, and then eventually had an issue and had to come in pit there at the end. I know BMW probably has to feel frustrated, given the speed that they show with both of their cars. Not a single car on the podium, but at the end of the day, I think they have to feel very proud of their effort, because after seeing what we saw 24 hours, you can safely say that they were the most improved GTP team compared to last year. And I think BMW could make some noise, but with all the speed that they showed, it also comes with consequences, because I have a feeling once we get to the 12 hours of season, they might get pegged back a little bit, but still have to be proud of what they were able to do at Daytona throughout the month.
Yeah, when he made that move for the pass, I thought this could be it, but then going wide allowed the Porsches back into the battle. There's always going to be next time, but yeah, like you say, he's probably going to be replaying a lot of what if scenarios. Sebring, it's going to be really interesting to see how the car does. Respect the bumps, much different animal than Daytona. Now let's go over to LMP2, another different animal from GTP. The battles at the end for LMP2 and GTD, pretty chaotic, especially in LMP2, with the lead changing multiple times in the closing hour to number 88. Yeah, of course. Prototype stopped on the track while leading. Then the number 18 for Aero Motorsports got spun out the lead by the number 52 PR1 Mathiasen Motorsports, and then the number 52 received a penalty for avoidable contact, which helped promote the number 8 Tower Motorsports team to LMT2 class win with Sebastian Bourdais, one of the best IndyCar drivers of all time, John Ferrano, Sebastian Alvarez, and Jan van Aert. GTD, it was elbows out and the end, the battle of the number 13 AWA Corvette, the number 27 Heart of Racing Team Aston Martin. Of course, Aston Martin did not have the Valkyrie hypercar there, so they had the GTD with Heart of Racing. Driver Matt Bell in the Corvette, and Mattia Drudy in the Aston Martin trading pace multiple times and raced very aggressively. The Aston Martin lost some pace at that time. Went on, the number 13 AWA Corvette prevailed to win GTD. Joining Bell in victory lane were co-drivers Ore Fideni, Lars Kearns, and Marvin Kirchhoff. Kobe, what stood out the most to you in LMP2 and GTD throughout this race?
The fact that in both classes it was a race of comers and goers. You didn't have one or two or three cars who were dominant of the class all throughout. You saw all different all different cars, rising and falling throughout the race. Thought it was super competitive in LMP2 and GTD, and my goodness, the LMP2 race to the end. It seemed like that was the one class, that nobody wanted to win. It was unfortunate for the AF Corsa for the AF Corsa prototype. They almost set Ferrari because AF Corsa runs the factory Ferrari sports car programs from around the world, but they were LMP2 prototype. Stop Matthew Vaxiviere was behind the wheel at the time. I was really unfortunate. Like Nicholas Nielsen done a good job to set up Vaxiviere there for the end, and then Air Motorsport, I believe Paul Loupchaton was behind the wheel, and he got a nudge from Matthias Betch in the PR1 Matheson Motorsports LMP2, and that basically took both of them out from contention, with Air Motorsport having damage, and getting spun, and then Betch had to bring the car to pit road, and then great job by Sebastien Ogier, just holding on there at the end to win the LMP2 class with his teammates as well. Thought they ran an excellent race, and then GTD Matt Bell, Mattia Drudy, they were really beating and banging all over each other towards the end there. Thought it was just some really good racing, and also they didn't finish on the podium in this race, but got to give a call out to Winward Racing, who was trying to win another Rolex 24. They end up finishing fourth in class, but I believe NBC said at one point in the race they were 7 laps down, in class because they had an issue, had to go to the garage, and then the driver who was behind the wheel ended up going the wrong way to the garage, and he was actually driving by, groups of fans trying to get back to the garage area. So, that cost him some valuable time, and they fought and clawed, back. And at one point, they were right there, and they could have won another Rolex 24 in GTD, but, unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. I believe they finished right off the podium. You have number 57 Winward Racing Mercedes finished in fourth. Yeah, so still a good day for them, So probably maybe a great one shining moment, worthy thing there. Yeah, but just thought they did a really good job, and that's why they call this endurance racing. You have to endure. If you have an issue early enough in the race, it is possible, to get it back, especially, considering, some of the procedures IMSA had by during the full course cautions, where you see cars able to, take their wave by, or to wave around, if you like to call it in NASCAR, so you can try to get back on the lead lap, and the cautions fell, perfectly for them, and they were able to, keep their heads down and work their way back up, to still have a solid point save when you're thinking about the championship. But all in all, that LMP2 and GTD had a lot of great things going on.
A lot of great things. The battle was really exciting. Overall, Kobe, just the competitiveness, like we heard Parker Kligerman, especially if anybody was watching Peacock NBC in the United States, Parker Kligerman saying this was physical. It was something else just watching all this race. And 24 hours later, it still comes down to the closing moments. It's not just a blowout. Very exciting race. And it just seems this race always seems to deliver year after year. Now on to GTD Pro, where we saw plenty, probably the most drama, honestly. Let's talk about that between Pratt Miller Motorsports Corvette and Paul Miller Racing BMWs. So, of course, the drama between the Corvettes and BMW late in the race allowed the Multimatic Ford Mustang GT3s to take 2 spots on the podium after a fierce battle in the final hours. The number 65 Ford Christopher Mies, Frederick Verwirchet, and Dennis Olsen claimed the victory in GTD Pro, while the number 64 Ford took the final spot on the podium. I have to ask, how intense was this race in GTD Pro? Because it seemed the closer we got to the end, and did it seem like Ford was going to lose given how fast they were? Especially, people kept saying, Kobe, they were the fastest on the straightaways.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like the Fords, could activate DRS and gain more speed on the straightaway. Early in the race, I remember seeing the Ford racing the Corvette, and in the infield section, Corvette was right there, but going through the Le Mans chicane on the run through NASCAR 3 and 4 into the tri-oval, you could just see the Ford Mustang, the power into that American V8 just pulling away from the Corvette. And there was really nothing the Corvette could do in the straight line, because by far, with the eye test, the Ford Mustang GT3s had the best straight line of any car in the GTD Pro category. That was just spectacular, to see how much this program have improved over the last year. And we talked about it on yesterday's pre-race show on how Ford, looked like they found a lot of good things over the offseason to improve this program. And I can say Multimatic Motorsport are looking like an early contender for the GTD Pro Championship, because both of those cars were, locked in, the number 65 and the number 64, quick all race long. And like I was saying with the BMWs, Ford's probably not going to be happy when they get to Sebring, because given how fast they were here, they're probably going to get pegged back with balance of performance, because they were, just superior. And you just got to give a testament to Ford Performance and Multimatic Motorsports for all the hard work they put in over the offseason, to get this car where it is now. And because last year they were out to lunch in GTD Pro, because they were not in the fight at all. But this year they were, the fastest car, and they were the gold standard of this class. And although they had a little help at the end, with some, as Calvin Fish would like to say, a little argy-bargy between the Corvettes and the Ford. The Corvettes and the BMWs, a little argy-bargy between them, helped set up Ford to get this win. But all in all, great performance. Number 65, Christopher Mies, Frederick Vervish, Dennis Olsen. Great job by that group. And also for the number 65, for the number 64 team, getting on the podium as well with Mike Rockenfeller, Seb Prio, and NASCAR driver Austin Cindric. I think Ford has to be very proud with how everything went.
Now, looking more into the draw that helped set up the Ford win in GTD Pro, with less than 3 hours remaining, the number 4 Corvette of Tommy Milner was in the GTD Pro class lead. He was battling Connor DeFelipe for the number 1 spot, and of course, he is in the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW. However, DeFelipe's teammate Augusto Farfus, who was in the number 48 BMW, blocked Milner's Corvette to help out DeFelipe. Then the number 48 wasn't in contention anymore after getting caught in a multi-car crash during the nighttime hours. This was one of the big crashes, Kobe, where we saw the number 40, a couple other cars in LMP2. My pick a winner get taken out. It was like just the way it goes on those restarts sometimes. But back to the story, of course, that's what took out the 48. Now, while blocking, essentially forced Milner into this mistake where he crashed into DeFelipe and damaged the rear of the number 4 Corvette. IMSA race control penalized Farfus for blocking, and then when the number 48 was slowing down to enter the pits, one of the race's most memorable moments occurred. Exiting NASCAR Turn 4, so Turn 4 of the super speedway, and coming towards the triover, Tommy Milner opened the window of his Corvette, stuck his arm out the window, and flipped off the number 48 coming down into the pits. I have to say, Kobe, this was starting to look like something out of Bristol or Martinsville, where you have those tempers.
Or about Bowman Gray, since that's where we're going next week.
Bowman Gray, we're probably going to see a lot of those fingers as well, too. Later in the race, we saw the number 4 Corvette and the number 1 BMW collide again. Nico Verone behind the wheel this time spun out Kevin Vanderlander in the BMW. After that blocking incident, Milner said this isn't what IMSA and sports car racing are about, adding that Paul Miller Racing and BMW should be embarrassed. He also told the reporters that the number 48 BMW should have been parked for that incident. My goodness, Kobe, this was just off the scale craziness between Paul Miller Racing, Pratt Miller Motorsports. I saw people getting them a little bit confused because you have so many Millers, Milner, all this chaos. What do you think of the team orders, though? Call from Paul Miller Racing. And do you think there could be bad blood between them and Pratt Miller Motorsports moving forward?
Oh, yeah. I think it's safe to say, Joe, that this is outside of Team Penske getting this overall win, that this is probably, the second, most talked about story coming out of the Rolex 24, and rightfully so. And yeah, anytime you get team orders, people are not going to like it, and they're going to be talking about it. But I think, this move from Paul Miller Racing definitely doesn't, put them in the most positive light here, because the number 48 BMW, as we mentioned, it was taken out in that big multi-car crash heading to the infield section that took out Louis Delatraz, who was driving that Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac at the time, the number 40. Yeah, and the BMW had to go behind the wall, and they were out of contention, so they really had no reason to be trying to block Milner in there. But from a team perspective, I understand why they did it. They wanted to help the number 1, get in the lead. So I get that part, but But when you think about the etiquettes of racing, the nicest thing that they probably could have done, I'm not going to say you should pull out of the way for the 2 leaders at that point of the race. Maybe if it was, let's say, the last 5 minutes of the race, you should probably just, let off the gas and let them race amongst themselves. But given where they were, I wouldn't say Farfus should have pulled over for him, but probably should, given a lot more respect in that situation. And Milner responding the way he did, that was just, an epic moment. That's probably how I'm going to end up remembering this Rolex 24. Like, imagine you're Tommy Miller, you're coming up to 160, 170, 180 miles per hour, and you open that little, you have your right arm on the wheel, and and then you take your left arm and you open that window and you stick your arm out and you give him the Texas salute. That was, a truly iconic moment of this year's Rolex 24, and we're going to be talking about that for a very long time. So definitely understand Milner's frustration there when he's saying, this isn't what IMSA is about and this isn't what sports car racing about, and saying that the team and the manufacturer should be embarrassed for participating in this. So I don't think this incident all casts Augusto Farfus or Paul Miller racing in a good light in regards of this being any bad blood between them moving forward. I guess we'll stay tuned, right? I don't think it's gonna, end on a fisticuffs, once we get to Sebring or anything like that. But I think if these two teams are racing each other, throughout the year, maybe Milner in the number 4, they're not gonna give the BMW much room on track at all. But it's easy to understand why Tommy Milner was very frustrated, because this ended up, ruining his race effectively to win in the GTD Pro class.
Yeah, the win was out of the question after that. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens to the lead up of Sebring. Of course, big story, as you mentioned, this is going to be one of those big stories, but of course, everyone will be talking about Penske, the Porsche number 7 overall winners again, and Nick Tandy, Elite Company, Grand Slam of 24-hour wins. Of course, we'll be following this story. If any development, Grid Tonight, Kobe will have more. And of course, we'll have, again, more coverage leading up to Sebring 12 hours. But Kobe, we got to wrap up with World Rally Championship.
Yeah, for sure. And with the World Rally Championship season opener in the books, we saw Sebastien Ogier taking a historic 10th win at Rallye Monte Carlo. He led each day and had no challenges at all in stage 1. He was a bit wide in one corner and saved it from a ditch due to ice, but there was no catching in. The top 3 were Ogier, Elfyn Evans, and Adrian Formeau was third, the highest finishing Hyundai driver. Last year, Ogier was a contender for the championship despite running a part-time schedule. Joe, do you think Ogier could do this all over again, where he's not even running all of the rallies and somehow still mathematically eligible for the championship?
I was thinking that it was like, as the rally was progressing, it's like, is he going to do it again? Run part-time, but still be just so dominant to claim the championship? If you're just going to go off what we saw at Monte Carlo, the answer would be yes. However, there's one story in Monte Carlo I think some people got to be talking about. Elfyn Evans, much better performance this year. Last year, it was like everybody was thinking Elfyn Evans would be one of the championship contenders with Toyota Gazoo Racing. That did not happen. Thierry Neuville, we saw Oitanik get up there. I overall think Elfyn Evans, if he could step it up, he will prevent such a feat of Sebastien Ogier coming in, certain races, winning them, and keeping himself in the championship. We also have to factor too that Kalle Rovanperä, who wasn't running full time last year, is running full time this year. Didn't exactly have a stellar race, but we know he didn't do some of the stages last year, so he had to learn that. Of course, we had the new tires as well too. So overall, I think Sebastien Ogier, if he's going to be a championship contender again, essentially he's going to need to see Elfyn Evans have a season like last year, where it was just seemed like Elfyn Evans did not show up. He's going to need a season where Thierry Neuville, Oitanik, Adrian Formeau, who had a great first race with Hyundai, sort of be consistent, but not so dominant where somebody's going to be rolling win after win after win. So it might be a little harder for Ogier, but he could do it again, especially just looking at how good he was at Monte Carlo.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever Sebastien Ogier enters a rally, you expect him to be up there contending for the win, and that's exactly what he did. the Rallye Monte Carlo, that this is, the one event on the schedule. If he's going to win it, that this is probably going to be the one, because this is one of his best rallies out there, and a testament of his continued longevity and how talented he is in this sport. And I agree with what you said about Elfin Evans. Have to try to step it up. So Sebastien Ogier run out part-time schedule is not going to be in the same position that he was in last year, when we were talking about how crazy it was that this guy is not even running every rally, but he's still somehow right in the thick of it when it comes to the championship. And now looking at some of the Hyundai drivers who had some bad luck, and that started, with defending champion Thierry Neuville avoiding a forced DNF. They had to pay a $10,000 fine for not having four-wheel rolling, which would normally be a DNF. Tonic, had damage and had a big Saturday where he was in podium contention. However, he only brought home 5th place in Rallye Monte Carlo, starting the year off 5th in points, because no points were awarded on Saturday like last year. In your opinion, Joe, where is Hyundai, and what would their approach to Rally Sweden look like?
I wouldn't change or adjust the Rally Sweden approach based off what happened in Monte Carlo. You look at the past history of Rally Sweden, well, Tonic has won there twice. Thierry Neuville has been on the podium multiple times. I mean, Adrian Formay last year with Ford M Sport got a podium. So you got drivers that are capable of getting a podium on the snowy conditions of Rally Sweden. So overall, I don't think they have to really change much. Yeah, it was a bit disappointing. You had the defending champion who brought back the number one, having the issues. Looked like it was going to be a DNF. I thought it was going to be a DNF just after seeing that, but $10,000 fine, keep going. Okay, get those points. Honestly, that might be something where Roll Rally may want to consider some change with the rules, because at the end of the day, if it comes down to single-digit points, that could be the decider. And then what's stopping teams from just saying, hey, we're just going to take the fine and just, is this a loophole? Maybe, maybe not. But it just seems like, okay, the rule is if you don't have the 4 wheels rolling, especially between stages where you need to, because sometimes you got to drive these cars on those street roads. Well, rather than get the DNF, just pay $10,000 and I could still collect the points. That might be something worth looking into. But overall for Hyundai, like I said, they have the drivers. They should not be thinking about, okay, we need to adjust. We need to be more aggressive. Just let the drivers run their rally races that weekend in Sweden, because they have the success there. Podiums will be good. This is a fairly short season compared to the other series in the grid ranking, but still every point's going to matter. Be in good contention. And then Sunday, those points, those power stage points are going to be a big deal. So I think they have to be feeling pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, like you're saying, just one race, one rally didn't really go that well for them, so they can really, just throw this one away, and be like, the season really is going to start at Rally Sweden. Like you said, I'm sure they're going to be strong there, and they're going to be strong, at many rallies throughout the rest of the season. Looking forward to seeing what happens in this year. World Rally Championship and Rally Sweden will take place on February 13th through 16th. Be sure to subscribe and follow the Grit Network across social media at Grit Network TV and GritNetworkTV.com for our latest content. And unfortunately, we're almost out of time for today, so it's time for our Grit One Shining Moment. And so whether it was from the Rolex 24 at Daytona, from any of the Support Series races we saw at Daytona, or World Rally Championships, Rallye Monte Carlo, please let us know down in the comments below what's your Grit One Shining Moment from this racing weekend. And Joe, I'll let you go first.
My one shining moment, I would say, comes from World Rally Championship. It has to go to Sebastien Ogier getting that 10th Rallye Monte Carlo win. That is a huge deal. Rallye Monte Carlo, of course, for some of our American fans that may not follow World Rally that much, this is sort of their Daytona 500, their Indy 500. This is the big one. To win it 10 times, and especially part-time, a lot of times we see part-time drivers, they'll have 1 or 2 wins. But Sebastien Ogier, I'm convinced if he did not retire from full-time competition, he could still be a contender for championships year after year. Last year was so evident of that. So he is my shining moment. And then a special shout out to our colleague Joshua, Jess, who are on the Joshua Bush Motorsports 24-hour live stream, all 24 hours. They're getting their rest. Big kudos to them. Of course, our colleague Jackson Lambros from Outlet Media joining them That was some great coverage from them. And to watch along, encourage everyone check out the links in the video description.
Yeah, for sure. JB Motorsports had a big weekend. Really happy to see their continued success, and also a big thank you to Josh and Jess from yesterday from the pre-race show. Really appreciate everyone for supporting that program and your support for future programs as well. And my shining moment, I actually have a few shining moments. First shining moment, obviously, going to be what Team Penske continuing to add to its incredible legacy and dynasty across motorsports. A great finish by the Porsches there, and looking forward to seeing what they're able to do throughout the rest of the season. Also with Nick Tandy becoming the first driver to win those those 24-hour endurance races. Incredible feat there. And second shining moment, got to give it to Tommy Miller for what he did on the bank. I thought that was, just the coolest thing ever. And when you really look at the replay, that's a tiny little window that he had to stick his arm out. I wonder what went through his mind when he decided that he was going to do that. That was just, incredible. I think I've been seeing a lot of people already using it for like the latest meme. So Tommy Miller, thank you for making our Rolex 24 memorable and giving us a funny moment there. And last but not least, this may surprise you, but my last shining moment is going to go to the number 13 Corvette in GTD, the AWA Corvette. And the reason why I want to give them my shining moment is because of what happened last year. They had a driver who was with the team. His name was Anthony Mantella, and they had some gremlins with the car happen at last year's Rolex 24 Daytona and Mobile 1 12 Hours of Sebring. And he was supposed to be the driver for the full season in that car. And Anthony Mantella, since he was the customer there, it was his car. So you know what he decided to do after 2 races? He decided that he put the car up for sale actually. And right now I'm actually looking at the post that he put up. It says IMSA GTD Corvette race car for sale, used very infrequently, hasn't finished the race, perfect for the collector who wants the latest iron from Pratt & Miller Corvette racing, not a perfect race car, and all of that. So just think, the car that he threw away after 2 races ends up winning GTD 1 year later, and that should be a lesson for you for you all here. Just because something isn't working at first doesn't mean that they'll eventually get it right. So kudos to AWA for getting that job done and winning in GTD in that same Corvette that was just tossed out by one of its customers just last year. Just an incredible story there.
That is a very incredible story. In the chat room, Adam, shining moment, the whole Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, one of the best endurance races I've watched in a long time. And of course, first one of 2025. Well, if you follow the Grid Endurance Performance Index, of course, there's been already some action going on. But follow us, subscribe right here at Grid Network on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss our programs. Thumbs up helps us in the algorithm, and share with your friends, family that love motorsports, including across social media at Grid Network TV. And lastly, a big thank you to our investors. Call on the show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew, for investing into Grid Network each and every month. Link in the video description will get your name on the list. And a big thank you to everyone that tuned in to the pre-race show yesterday. It means a lot. We love doing the pre-race show for this event and the wrap-up show. We know a lot of you are tired, probably were up. So definitely be sure to subscribe. Share with your friends that may have missed us because they're taking a nap, like Josh I know is right now after 24 hours of calling the coverage at Daytona. For Kobe Lambeth from Grid Tonight, I'm Joe San Diego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time, and enjoy everything about motorsports because 2025, it is starting up.